Welcome back to Booze, Bros, and Cars, your favorite podcast about booze and cars, and we're your hosts. I'm Eric.
Mike.
I'm Carmelo.
And Nick.
All right, so welcome back, Carmelo. Glad to have you back.
Thank you.
We definitely missed you here last week, buddy. All right, so as always, let's go ahead and start off with the beer we're going to be drinking. I actually have one here from Equilibrium. Never tried Equilibrium. I've actually had this in my fridge for a couple weeks now. It's the honey hazelnut crisp. It's an imperial stout with hazelnuts, honey, and Madagascar vanilla. It is 11%, so it sounds very delicious. I'm actually pretty excited to try that. Mike, what do you have for tonight?
Well, I'm taking a page out of Nick's book. Tonight I got two different beverages going on. First one being I picked up some Basil Hayden dark rye bourbon.
Ooh.
Trying this stuff out. I'm not like Nick. Sometimes I'll drink neat, but this one I threw a little bit of water in, some chilled water, just to I know I can see him just up already. But yeah,
better than like Coke or some other dumbass thing.
Splash of cool water in there just to give it, just to the way you're supposed to drink bourbon, Nick.
That's
supposed
to be. Well, I think technically Scotch that's the Scotch.
Well, yes. Anyway,
close enough.
That's what I'm starting off with, and then I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Pickleback before.
Mm-hmm.
You guys ever heard of that? Shot of whiskey followed with a shot of pickle juice. So tonight I'm drinking a Distill Sucker Punch Dill Pickle Sour. Figured this was going to be my take on a pickleback. So
I need to get my wife some of those. That's right up her alley.
Man, I'm not going to lie. This is not the first time I've had it. And I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you about it soon. But Carmelo, what are you doing? Carmelo, what are you sipping on?
All right, so tonight I got two different beers. One from Magnified Brewing. It's a smoothie sour strawberry banana drip. Something a little different from a company I haven't had before. 5% alcohol by volume. Brewed in can by them out of Fairfield, New Jersey. And then also I got something from Drecker, one of my favorite breweries. Their Chunk. Always good go-to. And, both are classified as a sour with a little sweetness to it. But, Nick, what you got going on tonight, buddy?
So I didn't pregame or anything, so I have three lined up. The first one's pretty light that I'm starting with, and this was another pickup from our local bottle shop, number 3. It is this Red Clay Brewing, part of their Double Master series. It's now I picked it up because of the name. That was the first thing that got me, right? Lamborghini, Miura. So that's what got me on there. I have no idea what this was, and the owner of the bottle shop went into it, telling me about how they partnered with a master sommelier, which is a wine specialist, and did this whole like masterful craft of this beer and almost like a wine style. And it's beautiful golden color. I've just had like one sip of it so far. It's super smooth. It's actually very tasty. One of those I feel like I could drink with like a good, like a nice dinner or something like that. And then over the weekend, I was in Fort Lauderdale Plantation area for my cousin's bachelor party. Bunch of drinking, fishing trips, stuff like that, some deep sea stuff. While we were there, though, me and my uncle and the future father-in-law, a couple of the older guys that didn't want to hang out with the 22-year-olds, did a little brewery jumping. And I'll call out the one I don't have a beer for them tonight. I bought a beer for my wife called Invasive Species. Pretty cool place. Pretty good triple IPA that I had. However, we also stopped by Funky Buddha. Picked up 3 different beers from them. First one is going to be a white chocolate macadamia nut. It's an Imperial Blonde Ale. I'll talk about it more later. I did have it at the brewery in a flight. And then also I had this as well at the brewery. This is their Void Shaker. This is a barrel-aged stout with vanilla. This is a little heavier. It's 11% alcohol. Again, I already had it. But I liked it enough to buy a couple 4-packs of each, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later when we do our little recap and I start cracking those open.
Nice. Funky Buddha is pretty delicious. Haven't drank them in a very long time. But yeah,
They've gotten their
they've got-
stuff together again.
Why is that,
Seems
Eric?
to be.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Do you want me to
let's
really
not
talk
try
about
to
that?
stop nobody.
Do you really
The
want me to talk
booger.
about it? Yes,
Let's
the
talk.
booger.
Let's talk about it.
I mean,
why don't we
We'll,
talk
we'll
about
talk
it?
about
Yeah,
it.
it's
Well,
the
Why don't we
we'll
talk about it? Come on.
Okay.
Let's talk about it. So
Okay.
I remember the beer. Do you remember the actual beer?
Yeah, it
What
was
was the
their
chocolate?
orange, their chocolate orange beer. Yes.
Chalkwork orange.
Yeah,
And
chocolate
I'm
orange.
pretty sure this was in my house, wasn't it? When we had a
Yeah,
game
It
night.
was. It was your sink that it came out into.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It was good times. So Eric, I'll let you. I'll let you take the reins, buddy.
Okay. So I'm gonna start off farther back because I have to add this to the story. So I loved Funky Buddha. Like they were one of my favorite breweries for a very long time. At that point in time, Mike was working for a brewery. Do you want me to say the name of the brewery? Can we say it? Okay? You worked for Big Top back in the day, and you were all about Big Top, and they're better than Funky Buddha because Big Top uses all natural ingredients and all natural stuff and things like that, which is true. It's true. They use a lot of their
Shout
their
out to Mike and
farmers.
Seth at Big Top.
Yes,
Boys.
shout out to them. But and missed him because we actually did play a prank on Mike copying for there was a beer event and we kept mimicking you.
Jesus Christ! Yeah.
Oh, at the ball field.
Yes. And Mike was part of that, which is awesome. But anyways, so I love Funky Buddha. They were like my favorite brewery for a very long time. So then we went down to Fort Lauderdale and we did K1 carts, and then we went to Funky Buddha, and we were enjoying some beers for there. We like from them we had some fights and things like that. And then Mike, you actually brought some beer, and you actually did a bottle exchange with them.
I
So
did.
they gave us
I did.
and they gave us the shock work or shock clock orange.
Chalkwork orange. So,
Chalkwork orange. Yeah.
I'm going to make a note. There. That's one of the cool things about working in the beer industry, specifically working for a brewery. There's a lot of times you have really cool beer items on hand that a lot of other people might not have at the time. So it does offer the ability to do some cool trades when you're talking to other people from other breweries. You know, hey, whatever. Oh, you guys just released this cool new beer. All right, well, I got this other cool thing.
Mhm.
Like, why don't we? I'll give you a bottle. You give me a bottle. So it does offer some fun exchanges like that. So anyway, that's how we
Yes.
got a couple of the beers that
Yes.
we had. So
Yeah.
brought 'em back.
So, so fast forward, like from when from when Mike exchanged bottles with Funky Buddha. Fast forward, like what? It was like 4 to 6 months, right? It was like 4 or 6 months.
it was at least 6 months. Yeah,
It was
at least
already
6 months.
So before back in the day, we used to do a lot of game nights at Mike's house because we used to, just bring beer, just enjoy beer, have some good food, play some board games and card
Less
games
children.
and things like that. Yes, less children. So we were like, yo, let's open up that bottle of Chalkwork Orange from Funky Buddha. We were excited to drink it. We were excited to try it. And then Mike opens it up. It starts pouring it into the glasses. And then there was, like Nick
The
said, there was
booger.
like boogers coming out, which
The
wasn't
booger.
literal.
Mm.
It wasn't literal boogers. It was more like tar that was coming out. It was. I'm assuming it's like all like the stuff, like the flavoring that they added.
It reminded me on like when you make kombucha, that what they call it, the
Yeah.
SCOBY or something like that.
Oh,
Like,
Yeah. The
It
mother.
reminded me of that flopping
Yes.
out of the bottle. It was just.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
hindsight being 2020, and me being in the industry, being around beer as long as I have been, Funky Buddha specifically, there's no hiding it. They don't tell people, hey, we have all real ingredients, everything is run through a centrifuge, blah 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 blah. They basically tell you these beers have a lot of stuff in them and don't age them. Like drink them cold, drink them fresh.
Yeah.
I had this thing cold. Granted, it was in my refrigerator, but I think that might have lended some of the issues is that it sat cold for 6 months. But I think a lot of the extract and whatnot congealed in the bottle. I don't know if they were bottle conditioned or not. I can't remember back that far. I don't think so, but it could have been. But all that stuff just congealed, and we got like 2 snifters out of it. And by the time you get to the 3rd snifter, it just chunks were just plopping out of the bottle. And I remember we still took a sip of the couple that didn't have the buggers in them, and it tasted good. It's a 10.5 barrel aged imperial stout. Can't mess it up too bad, but it was just the, I don't know, just the experience. The experience kind of threw us off a little bit, especially Eric. He basically blackballed the brewery for a long time after that. So
I did, thanks to you, Mike. And then, funny enough, you started selling Funky Buddha, and you were like now pushing it, and I'm just like, no. But yes, Funky Buddha. There you go. But the original owners, like actually, when we were talking offline, Nick just mentioned, and so did Mike. The original owners actually bought it back, so that might intrigue me to actually drink their beer again. I'm probably gonna give them some time so they can actually have beer like how I'm assuming the older owners used to make. So
a note on that. For anybody that doesn't know, for those of you that are watching that might not be from Florida, maybe you're familiar with Funky Buddha. It's a statewide brewery. I think they actually have some distribution outside of the state these days. They were owned by, or they got purchased by Constellation Brands. Can't remember when, 2016, 2015, somewhere in there. They were purchased by Constellation, so the company that owns Corona, Modelo, Pacifico, all those brands, used to own Ballast Point as well. So they got purchased by that. Made a lot of changes, over time, but just recently, within the last year, Funky Buddha, actually within the last 6 months, Funky Buddha was actually sold by Constellation back to the original owners, and they purchased it back from them, and now they're gonna start getting their feet wet again and getting back into the beer scene. So. Yeah. Should be cool. I'm interested to see how things transition with that. With being owned by Constellation,
lose control.
Well, with Constellation, their focus shifted. It's volume. They wanted volume, so they started doing seltzers because seltzers were popular, and they started pushing Floridian and Hopgun, which is their Hefeweizen and their IPA. With the original owners coming back, I think it's going to come more back to like doing the cool stuff that people know Funky Buddha for. The reason they're so well known, and the reason they've won so many awards. So I'm excited for it. It'll be cool.
Yeah, I am too.
As long as we can get Eric drinking their beer again.
I was just going to say that. I'm actually excited for that too, because I'm actually going to be drinking their beer again.
Yeah.
So Eric, what we can do is, where was I? Was it in Drecker or Brewery Project? One of the smoothie beer companies that I went to in Minnesota, Wisconsin, wherever it was. They said roll it. Anything that's aged that has chocolate or certain things that'll end up sticking together or coagulating, or whatever the proper terminology is. They say to roll the can, or the bottle to spread it. So I'm wondering if that's just that it congealed all together.
No, it's the stuff that was coming out of that thing. There was no getting it to go back into suspension. There was no way. Okay. But to that point, I do want to say that and give Eric a little bit of a hard time here. Is that he's given the brewery a hard time about using adjuncts and extracts when a lot of the stuff that he's drinking these days is smoothie sours that are just shoved with all kinds of random ice cream and shit. So,
fired.
I'm drinking. So, I'm also drinking whiskey tonight, so I'm gonna be a little fiery. So
I like it.
So you're not wrong about that, Mike. Yeah, for sure. Well, you're not wrong about that, Mike.
Tastes have changed. Yeah,
they have. But the only thing that I am going to say is that because one brewery that probably does uses a lot of like those extracts and flavorings and things like that is probably Spanish Marie, and I'm sold on Spanish Marie. I love their beer. I was down in Miami again yesterday, and I had to go there, and I had more of their butterbeer beer, and it was phenomenal. And like I said, they're probably one that uses a lot of like that flavoring and extracts, but I did not have an episode with their beer where there's pretty much boogers and tar coming out of their bottles. So that's the big one. That's pretty much what they did for me. But I mean, I may end up dabbling and actually trying their beer again. So I'm not gonna completely write them off of my choices of beers. I'm probably gonna go back and drinking them because they got owned or they got bought out by the original owners again. So
didn't we go over to Canine Carts over in Lauderdale? You guys came over and basically abducted me with my wife knowing
Yes.
about it, which was awesome.
Yes.
That was great.
Mhm.
So maybe we need to orchestrate that again. A couple of us need to
Yeah.
steal someone else, and we just need to leave and go away for the weekend, and we'll try Funky Buddha again, and we'll hit a couple of the breweries while we're down there.
Well, actually, you bring up a really good point, because one thing we can do is I have a GoPro, and obviously you have to bring your own helmet, so maybe we can do some in-car footage of us driving. Oh,
Yeah.
you got your cam.
Ooh,
Okay,
no, look at this
Come on.
guy. Look at this
Okay.
guy.
Got it.
good. Okay,
Well,
Look at this guy. Breaking out the
Nice.
Max.
nice. Okay, so as
Nice.
we were kind of talking about in the last podcast, so this upcoming Saturday, so obviously today is Sunday, so this upcoming Saturday we're going to be driving out to Bradenton Motorsports Park, and we're going to be running. So more than likely, me, Mike, Carmelo. I don't know if you said that if you were going to go, but we were all going to caravan up there earlier in the day, because Mike or Carmelo or Nick does have to work, so he's going to meet us up there afterwards. But Mike, did you talk to your buddy to see what time he wants to head up there?
I think he's going to get up there earlier because they're doing
Okay.
roll racing starting at what 4 or 5 o'clock, I think. So
Okay,
I think
yeah.
I think 4.
So he wants to get up and do some of the rolls just because he wants to. Granted, that's
Mhm.
roll racing is really good for not breaking shit.
Yeah.
When you're talking lots of horsepower, doing something from a dig,
Nick.
you're stressing out your components. So
Yeah.
anyway, he wants to go up and he wants to go around and mess around with the roll racing a little bit. So I think he said he was
Okay.
getting up there a little bit earlier in the day. So
Okay.
I'll find
Well,
out though. I'll shoot him a text this week. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And then if anything, if he is going to get up there earlier, you and I can coordinate and see what time we're going to head up there. I might actually have my buddy, his name's Ryan. I kind of mentioned him to you guys last week. Cool dude, big into Fords. He doesn't have anything at the moment. He just finished buying a house, so he doesn't have a fun toy, but he's hoping that he can actually get a Mustang. He wants to get an older Mustang, like a SN95, or he ideally wants a Fox body,
good taste.
a coupe. Yeah, he ideally wants a Fox body coupe, but those are ridiculously hard to find because
those
everything
are
he
like
finds is all
15, 20
hatchbacks.
grand rough.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to spend that much for a shell because he has a motor to put in it, and he needs to, buy some drivetrain components. But he's a genius with the whole Ford Mustang scene. But anyways, he's gonna come up. Dude's from, I'm probably gonna butcher this. I think he's from Missouri, so he's got that very heavy like country accent. Cool ass dude. He's awesome. He's like from the military, so he's a good guy. But yeah, like I'll coordinate with you and with him to see what time we're gonna head up there. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Anyways, Carmelo. So I briefly mentioned, on the last podcast that you were out of town, obviously for some personal family stuff, but you did go to a very interesting location. So do you want to go ahead and talk about your trip when you were out of town last weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. For those who don't know, my paternal grandmother passed about a week and a half ago, or 2.5 weeks now, and because of that, I had to go back to Italy, and then from Italy to Sicily. But yeah, so going was interesting to say the least. I mean, it was good to catch up with family, meet second cousins and stuff, but this is I enjoy driving them. From autocrossing, I've done a couple track days. We got held up in Rome overnight, and so talking with my dad, obviously he's in the States here with us. We decided to rent a car. We ended up with a Cinquecento or a 500e, and initially, I've had very minor experiences with EVs, but the saying is, if you can drive in Rome, you can drive anywhere. So I was like, you know what, screw it, 500e. And Rome wasn't bad. We were there on a Wednesday overnight to Thursday. Drove by the Colosseum, went to the Vatican, saw the sights. That little Fiat, I got it with 250 kilometers and put about 130 kilometers on it, 150 kilometers. give or take, and it still had 148 or something when I turned it in. I was surprised for a little city car, you know, how that was, and it was high trim, so it had big screen with CarPlay, and it was
Mhm.
comfortable AC. Tinted, down there it's or over there it's similar to the States or as Florida as far as temperature, and humidity isn't as bad. But I was like, all right, even talking to my dad, who's from a small town outside of Palermo, Sicily, called Bagheria. He's like, yeah, everyone says if you can drive from Rome, you can drive anywhere. And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, we'll see when you get to Sicily. So we go to Sicily and we rent
Challenge
a
accepted.
car. Yeah, right. Like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Because last year I did 2,000 miles all over the north: Venice,
Yeah.
Verona, Trieste, Cinque Terre, Maranello, Florence, and Mignano. I mean, Pisa. So I was like, how bad can it be, right?
Yeah.
So we're driving, or we get to the airport, and it was supposed to be a Volkswagen Up. And I don't know
Okay.
about you guys or you guys at home, but Jeremy Clarkson a few years ago when on Top Gear, when he was still on Top Gear, did an episode on the Volkswagen Up, and I've had a couple GTIs. My dad had an old Volkswagen Fox way back in the day when I was a kid. I was excited for it. So we get there, and then I end up with this little Hyundai i10. And nothing against it, but going from, a fully loaded top of the line 500 or Cinquecento to this little i10, I was like, okay, 4 doors, real, no power, and that's something that I forgot about. Last year I was over there. I think I had a Cinquecento with a 1.3 liter hybrid, and we were going up a hill, and I couldn't stay. We were on the Autostrada, their main interstate, and I couldn't do the speed limit because the car just couldn't do it. So it was the same feeling, right? We get out of the airport, it's all manual, and we're going, and I'm going through the gears, and there's just no power. So we get outside of Palermo, and we're getting connected to the Strada, which is like the equivalent of highway. And my dad's like, all right, just be prepared. Like, once we leave the city, driving's going to change. He hasn't been there. He went 8 years ago, but prior to that, he hasn't been there for over. He moved 40 years ago, 45 years ago. So we're getting on the merge, and at first you can see where there used to be painted lines, and it's a 2-lane road. You see 3 cars going, and scooters over there, like most of Europe. Scooters and motorcycles just cut in between cars, and it's expected. Like, there's no lane cutting and all this that we've seen, the controversy in California. They don't care. So you have motorcycles and scooters, everything from the Aprilia race scooters down to 49cc Vespas just zooming by. And so we're getting ready to merge on the main onto the main highway to go from Palermo to Bagheria, and we're now 5 or 4 cars wide, almost 5 cars. If you count the scooter, five vehicles wide on this 2-lane merge. And I look over to my left, and they're sitting there with the same thing. And so I'm like, how are we going to get 7 to 8 cars or 7 to 8 vehicles merging into 2 lanes? And we so that was interesting. Then we start going, and I get comfortable with a 2-lane road being a 4-lane highway at 130 kilometers, which is, I think it's like 75, 80, give or take. So then we turn off. Everything's fine. We get off the Autostrada, driving, and then we end up going into the town of Bagheria. And I see these traffic lights. There's no power. I asked my dad, and he's like, oh, that's weird. And he doesn't give me any hints, doesn't tell me anything. Next thing you know, we're going down a street. Stop sign. I stop, right? And they're in English, it's red octagon. Nobody else stops. People are honking their horn. All because, so I go, and then I look behind me, and people are just blowing by it. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience. A ton of fun. I would say that drivers there are more attentive than drivers here
Mhm.
because you have to be. Nobody was on their phone. Nobody was, everybody knew what was going on around them. Their awareness was better.
Well,
So it was
I,
improved.
yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but I think
No, go ahead.
when people are learning or getting their licenses in obviously not just Italy but all of Europe, but they actually
Mhm.
have a lot more of an extensive driving courses than what we have here. Versus here, you can literally just show that you're capable of driving the vehicle, and then they just give
Yeah.
out licenses like it's all good. Versus over there, like you actually have like to drive, like I think to get your license, don't you have to drive like in every season so that you can actually show that you can actually physically drive?
Yep. And then you have to take
Yeah.
multiple classes as well.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting because I remember, was it on Top Gear or Fifth Gear? One of the British shows, car shows, were talking about different countries 10 years ago or so, and how there's so much required. And it's either Sweden or Scandinavia. One of the countries requires you to drive multiple seasons, and you have to do the majority of your time has to be in the winter, like basically ice driving
Yeah. Yeah.
or mixed climate driving. And it's interesting because the motorcycles and the way that it all works and makes sense. And talking with a couple paramedics and cops that I met over there, they don't really have accidents
Yeah.
compared to
Yeah,
like what we have.
I've heard that a lot about Europe. Is like it's just ingrained into people. It's a way,
Mhm.
if you're operating an automotive vehicle, whether it's motorcycle, car, whatever, you've gone through so much extensive training that it's just like secondhand nature. Whereas in the U.S., you get your license when you're 16, and you get thrown out into the world, and 30 years later, you turn into a terrible driver, and you just
Mm,
it's a whole different world over there. I can only imagine.
yeah,
Now,
Yeah.
I do have a question. Sorry to
yeah.
interrupt as well, but
No,
like
go ahead.
on the motorcycle scooter side, do you obviously see a lot more motorcycles and scooters over there? Because that's
Oh,
another thing that I hear about Europe.
yeah, I mean it's crazy. Last year in the north, I saw it more when we were in Rome, and then after we left Sicily, my mom's still in Italy. I met up with her in Florence, about halfway from where she lives to where we were. But yeah, so more mainland Italy, I saw motorcycles and bikes, and I mean, you're in city centers or even the suburbs outside or the villages surrounding the major city, and I drove with the windows down, and Sicily was similar temperature to here, humidity, everything. So we're looking at high 80s with the low in the maybe the high 60s if we're lucky. And then my uncle asked me, he's like, "Why are you driving with the windows down?" I'm like, "Because I can't hear the motorcycle. I can't hear the bikes, the Vespas, the scooters." So yeah, I mean, and it's not like we've seen Top Gear and other shows go to Asian countries, and they're carrying plywood or a bunch of stuff on scooters. No, just people that were like just driving scooters for transportation.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was
No.
a ton, and
No.
it
Carmelo,
was
quick question.
phenomenal.
So were a
Mhm.
lot of the motorcycles and scooters, were they mostly within the city limits or were they like on highways too?
So interesting, good question. Scooters were mostly in city limits.
Okay.
Motorcycles were on the highway, and I
Gotcha.
mean
All right,
there,
that
there
makes
was
sense.
nothing. I'd be on the autostrada or the highway, and you could hear the bikes come down because one thing is, Italy is they're passionate with everything they do, whether it's clothes, food, cars, motorcycles, and they can't just leave it as is, right? They always got to tinker with it. They got to upgrade it. They got to make it the best. And I would hear these bikes come down, and I could hear them. I don't know, maybe a quarter mile behind me, just whoa, and clearly they were going above the speed limit, but they sounded amazing doing it, and it was weird because you would see people move. So even what like if you're coming up to a light, right? I'm second or third car in a row. If I see a scooter in my window, my mirrors, I, I'm expected to give them space so they can get up to the front of the light.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
so I think, and I wonder, and I'm not qualified to say, to give the answer, but I'm curious if because they're looking out for the scooters and the motorcyclists, if that's why their awareness is so much higher. Because some of these Vespas you can't hear,
Yeah.
right? You hear
Yeah.
them once they're on your bumper, even the other scooters, but they're always, And one thing that I loved is it almost felt like everywhere you went was a race. One, because the cars I drove had no horsepower, but two is because any time that you saw an opening, you had to go for it. Because if not, you're going to be stuck at that stop sign, merge lane, yield lane, wherever you are. Like, when in doubt, drop a gear and throttle out.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Nice, man. Well, that's
So
awesome.
I got a random question. Question. So in the States, if you go to Mexico to do some racing, everybody knows what you're talking about. If you're in Europe, where do you say you're going to do some racing? Is it you're going to the Autobahn? Everybody goes to Germany?
So you can do that, or the interesting thing is on the Autostrada, they have there's not cops traditionally like there are in the States, like FHP. So what they do is it's all done by some sort of tag monitoring. So it's your average velocity.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's posted everywhere. So in reality, you can leave one of those sites because I used Waze the majority of the time, and you could leave that 30-kilometer, 40-kilometer stretch, and then at that point, unless it's a fluke that there's a polizia or carabinieri on the autostrada, which I didn't really see, then that's it. Unless there was, I think we saw one crash.
So what do you have to do? You have to keep a mean average, basically, of
Yep.
speed.
That's just it. Yeah.
So if you pass a speed camera and you're going whatever the speed limit is, and then you rev it up and go double that, you just need to dial back and go half that before you hit the next one.
Or pull over and give it 5 minutes. And
this is also why Europeans are so much smarter than Americans, because they can do math on the fly like that while they're on the highway speeding. It's great.
Right.
Like, golly.
And I talked to a cop last year when I was there, and I was like, yeah, like speeding, and he's like, no. He's like, you can't have a fixed limit. He's like, I went to the States, and I guess he was in Nevada going to Vegas, from Vegas to Reno, and he got pulled over for doing like 6 over. And his question was, this guy in front of me is doing 5 under. How else am I supposed to pass him? And he's a marshallo in a local municipal police up in Trieste. And I was like, okay,
fair question.
That makes sense. And he's like, that's why we have the average, because if you're passing somebody, you got to exceed the speed limit to get in front of them if they're not doing the speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's smart. I definitely recommend anybody that can't, that ever wants to go to Italy or Europe, learn to drive stick, because there's a premium on rentals if you go for an automatic. Like, I think it's like €50 a day or €30 a day premium. But do it. It's a blast. Make sure, as long as you're a confident driver, whether it's attending some autocrossing, do a track day with an instructor, even just do driver classes. Just if you want to drive, that's
that begs another question. Were most of the cars that you see there manuals?
Yes, the majority were manuals. I think the only of all my family, my dad has 12 cousins, 10 of which are in Sicily, 2 are in northern Italy, on just one side of the family. And then there was 3 or 4 other cousins that we met with, and a bunch of his friends. Out of everybody that we ran into, I think only my dad's cousin had an automatic. Everybody else had manual.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, and I mean, it's weird because I think earlier in one of our earlier podcasts, I was talking about the GTI and how Volkswagen discontinued the manuals overseas, and it's just the U.S. or the North American markets that have the 6-speed in the Golf R and GTI. But everything over there is manual. The majority of it is, until you get into the Heinlein, cars.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, Carmelo, did you see the article recently that, I don't know if it's for 2024 or 2025, the GTI will no longer be offered in a manual?
No, it doesn't surprise me. I mean,
Yeah.
from before I bought my 22, I was looking into it because the Mark 7s, I don't know about the 7.5, but the Mark 7s, so the 15, I believe the 17, had an issue once you modified them, the clutches would slip on both the GTI and the Rs. Any tune, they had clutch issues. So then when I looked at mine and I wanted a manual, because I planned on keeping it for a long time. We all know I don't keep cars for a long
We
time.
knew that was a lie.
No, you don't. No, you don't. That's a lie.
But I learned that the GTI was the Mark 8 GTI was a 7.5 R transmission, untouched, and then the R had, I believe, a different clutch or a minor tweak, but it was only for U.S., Canada, and possibly Mexico. I can't recall if Mexico got them, but of all the countries in the world that the Golfs go to, they only made it for 2, possibly 3 countries. Everyone knew it was going to die off.
Yeah. Nice.
Who
That's
still
awesome,
makes
man.
them? These guys.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I saw your end shirt. I was wearing that a couple podcasts ago.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I thought about today. I'm like, man, I hope someone doesn't wear this again tonight. But
Yeah. Well, I think we all have that same shirt because it's
Yeah,
gifted
for sure.
at Sebring. But that's awesome, man. I'm considering the circumstances of why you were over at Italy. It's good to hear that you still had a good time. So briefly, all right. So we're gonna actually do again this week. Guess the track. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and I'm going to add the clip of the track right here. So if you guys want to guess, go ahead and guess, or add it on in the comments below to see what that track is. I give these guys the video, so they're gonna watch it, and give them some time to guess what track it is. But before we actually announce what track it is at the very end of the episode, definitely want to do a beverage recap. So I'll go ahead and kick it off, and I'll start off with the Equilibrium, the honey hazelnut crisp. It's pretty good. It's an 11% beer, but it really doesn't seem that way. It seems like it's like a lot less of an ABV. It is very smooth. You can't really taste too much of the vanilla or the hazelnut. You taste more honey than anything. But it's good. It's a pretty solid beer. I actually am enjoying it. It's the beer tonight. Mike, what about you?
The Basil hated. I didn't like it. Wasn't good at all. It was terrible. Terrible bourbon. I'm a big. I don't know. I like rye. I like rye whiskey. I like bourbon. I just never drink it on the channel. So I'm gonna start filtering this in here. Thanks, Nick, for the idea. It was delicious.
Yeah, right.
The rye gives it a real unique kind of dark roasted characteristic to it. Like I said, I added a splash of water to mine just to added the drinkability factor of it. It was delicious. Definitely recommend it. That'll make it back on here again. This was a fantastic idea. I like picklebacks. I've been to a bar or two and had a bourbon with a shot of pickle juice to follow it up. Mm-hmm. This beer is awesome. If anybody that's watching this, any of you guys, if you're a pickle fan, like this stuff is so freaking good. It literally tastes like you're drinking pickle juice. Like it's delicious. And they also have a spicy version of it as well, which I have yet to try, but I'm probably going to pick up some of that and have it on a future episode. But I definitely recommend it. So
nice.
Carmelo, what you got?
All right. So my first beer, the strawberry banana dip from Magnify, it was really good. It's classified as a sour ale. Didn't have too much of that sour tartness, puckerness to it, but it wasn't overly thick and sweet. I moved on to the Drecker. Obviously, they're one of my favorite brewing companies, a chunk. So it's good. lower ABV. I think they're both around 5%, 5-6%, give or take. But no, it's the chunk is obviously a little bit thicker. But it's
You like them
stuff.
thick.
What about you, Nick? You're
We know.
looking awfully quiet over there.
Yeah, well, so this I'm done with the Red Clay Brewing Mura West Indies Pale Ale. It was for what it was, and funny enough, it was on clearance, so I'm probably gonna buy more if they've got them in stock. It was actually a great drinking little beer. I didn't realize as I was reading it. It was made with chocolate from Dominican Republic and then aged in tequila barrels. So that explains a little bit of that spice kind of on the palate in the back there. But even with that little bit of like that little spice, a little tequila kind of bite, it was smooth. I mean, it was a real nice blend. However they did this, just a good smooth drinking beer and not a high ABV. I don't think 6%. I'm into the Funky Buddha white chocolate macadamia nut, which was what that was the Imperial Blonde Ale. 8.5%, 9%, something around there. It's delicious, and I'm drinking out of a Browns cup. Not a Browns fan. Wife is. They won today. My Eagles won today as well, but oddly enough, I only have jerseys. I don't have any cups. So, giving her a little credit there and her team. This stuff is delicious. Typically, when you think of these like a white chocolate macadamia nut, right? You're thinking like a sickening sweet cookie flavor. I would have expected it to be almost like a stout or something like that without that flavor or something, But being that it's a blonde ale and the way they balance it out is phenomenal. It's not really sweet, but the flavor comes through like crazy. And just a fun fact for everybody. If you get a full pour of this at the brewery, you also get a fresh white chocolate macadamia nut cookie with it on a plate.
Nice touch.
Yeah, my uncle got that, and we were confused as hell. And we're like, "What the hell?" He's like, "Oh, I got the white macadamia. It came with a cookie."
Hell yeah.
So nice touch by the brewery there. I haven't yet gotten into the Void Shaker vanilla porter that's barrel aged. We did find out that it was while we were there. It's barrel aged in Buffalo Trace barrels.
Oh,
so I don't know if I'll get into it by the end of this podcast, but I will just tell you I've had it. It is a delicious beer as well. Nice dark color, also very well balanced, and to the point of this, not sweet. Great flavor comes through the whole way, very well balanced, and not sickeningly sweet. We had a bunch of guys at our table that did flights that tried it. That's not their style of beer, and they were pleasantly surprised. So good stuff all around.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, we definitely have to make our way over there. Mike, that was actually a really good idea to plan a trip to go to K1 cards, not K9, right? Yeah, it's K1 cards.
K1, yeah. Sorry, that was my flub earlier.
yeah, we definitely have to make our way over there to the other coast and just hit up K1 cards and Funky Buddha again. But yeah, and I'll actually enjoy the beer this time. I'm sure I will. All right, so kind of want to get into some car topic that just recently was announced within the last week. So the big one that we actually have heard of was that Off Lease Only is going bankrupt. So Nick, you have a little bit more insight on this because you said that a few of your guys actually used to work for them. But apparently, what was it that they had? They announced that there was like a company-wide meeting 30 minutes or 15 minutes prior to opening doors, and they just pretty much just...
Yeah, so they held a meeting
everybody
at all the stores on Wednesday, and they basically told everybody, they didn't go into details, they just gave them a couple little tidbits and basically said, you got 30 minutes, we're shutting down, get your stuff and get out. Any personal belongings got to go. And kind of just a little bit of the backstory behind a lot of this, like, this company came up real big, real strong, probably
real quick
7-8 years ago, give or take.
Yeah,
husband and wife started the company. They had a couple really kind of mastermind kind of people in the auto industry that were very good at like turning inventory. They bought a lot of questionable cars, a lot of these off-lease cars that had accidents on them and stuff like that. And I mean, most of them had good titles and stuff. They had some sloppy histories too, and that was kind of their thing. They could get them a little bit less than everybody else, sell them a little less than everybody else, and they particularly focus in the beginning there on the highline stuff, your BMWs, your Mercedes, your Lexus, all the things that people wanted but didn't want to spend the premium on, and they could offer them because of the accident here or there at less of that premium. and all generally decent vehicles, just with some blemish histories. And they got big. I mean, they're one of their biggest stores. I can't remember if it was the one outside of Orlando or the Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach one. For a while, they were doing like 1,200 cars a month. I mean, they were moving some vehicles. And I want to say back in 18, maybe, they sold out to some kind of private equity firm or an investment group or something. The husband and wife that are the original owners maintained a 20% stake and still worked with the companies. But basically, with this new injection of funds from this company that now had 80% ownership, their nut, so to speak, to cover was higher. And through COVID, I guess they had some issues. And recently, it just got to the point where they couldn't cover that nut anymore with the other owners. And Carmelo can maybe explain this a little bit more. I've heard the term because of this. I don't know it well, and he's in a more financial background, but they fell out of trust. That's what I've been hearing. Which is basically the fact they couldn't cover the right percentage they needed to be able to cover and on a monthly basis, and that was that. Now they're going to file for bankruptcy, which most people would sit there and say, well, you're in the auto industry. That's great news. That's a less competitor. Well, first of all, they're not directly in my area. Second of all, we're about to flood the used car market with all their inventory and get rid of it.
Just looking at a website. I mean, I definitely don't have a financial background by any means, but it says the company was 20% owned by the founders and the 80% by New York-based investment firm Cerberus Capital Management. So I can imagine if you have 80% of your ownership asking for their money, and you're not coming up with it, then.
And that's really what it comes down to. But I mean, my market's definitely going to feel a little bit of the influx of used cars. Fall goes well, my used car director picks up some cars from them that are clean for our inventory at a nice price. But the other sad part about this
20
is,
plus Camaro 2SS 1LEs. Come on.
We'll see. It's only a matter of time before I get one on trade against an S65.
Yes, 60.
Come on, we're gonna get one on trade against an S650 GT. It's just bound to happen. So just patience. But one of the sad things about this though is, I mean, they employed like 600 people, or something like that, or maybe 1,000.
So they employed 600,
400 to 600, yeah. So they employed a nice amount of people, and a big majority of those are going to be salespeople, finance people, sales managers. A lot of these people have been doing this for a while. They're skilled people, and they just got shit on. I mean, they're going to have to get out there and scramble. And a lot of places aren't looking for those management levels and stuff like that because through COVID, we all were pretty strong in the state of Florida. So a lot of these guys are going to be struggling trying to find homes. So that part's sad. I have competitors in my market, but I never want to see one of them go down. There's one or two maybe it's questionable business, but for the most part, I don't want to see any of them go down. Financially, it's one thing if the government picks them up because they're doing illegal shit, but it is a sad day in the auto industry, one way or the other, whether you're a consumer or whether you're in the industry. Because for us in the industry, a bunch of our brothers and sisters just lost their jobs, their careers, and then if you're a consumer. For some people, that was their ticket to a nice Highline car with maybe one accident on it at a great price. So it kind of, it's going to make a little bit of a hit, a little indent for sure.
Yeah. So I've got to ask Nick, because this might be a low blow for you, but have you seen any articles coming out about the S650 Mustang coming out?
No, I can tell you we just got our first two, and I got some hands-on on them and some looks, but that's it.
Hold on, S650, that's the newest one, right? Does that include the Dark Horse?
Yes.
Is the Dark Horse out yet?
Chassis number.
Because I swear, so I saw one on the highway the other day. I was driving to Naples, and I saw one driving, and I recognized the headlights, right? Because they're all like, it's like three squares on the headlights now. Oh my God, it looks...
There has been an RTR Dark Horse running around that area.
It wasn't RTR. It didn't look. Okay. It didn't look modified in any way, shape, or form. It just looked. I could tell it was the new chassis. It was going the other direction on 75. Okay. I just happened to catch it out of the corner of my eye. I was like,
"That's." There have been a couple caught in the area because of Alligator Alley and Roush. They do all the testing. With manufacturer Michigan plates on it. There is a chance we have not had a Dark Horse delivered yet. There's a slight chance Tamiami got one before us, which I highly doubt. But but so it could have been a manufacturer car.
Yeah, it could have been. I
anything's
didn't see the
possible.
plates.
I
I
mean,
definitely saw the car though. It was. It looked. It
I'm
looked
sure
really
it was
cool.
definitely what you think you saw was probably exactly what it was.
Oh yeah.
Whether it was
Yeah.
privately owned or company owned, that's
Mhm.
doesn't really matter. But yeah, they are
Yeah.
starting to get delivered. I've seen it on some of the groups.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna make this one quick comment real quick and then go back to what I was gonna say, which is I'm pretty sure I saw a Dark Horse S650 like months ago driving on Colonial, like when I was headed home one day, because it was that it had the Dark Horse had just been released or had just been announced, and I just saw a Mustang in that color and it had the same headlights. So, and it had Michigan plates on it. So I'm like, what the heck is this Mustang?
Yeah.
And I looked at the headlights and I'm like, this is not your typical S550 headlight. Like what is this? Like, is it like aftermarket?
That hood scoop setup or that vent is in the front of the grill, the hood.
Yeah.
So when you see that front hood vent and then those headlights, that's the giveaway on these.
Well, I didn't notice the hood vent because it was just later on in the daytime. It was like more like the sun was setting, so it was a little bit darker. But I noticed the car and the color, and I'm like, that's
the headlights are very different.
Yeah, I was like, that's very weird. But anyways, so what I've actually been hearing about the new S650, which like I said, it might be a little blow for you, but apparently they're dynoing lower than what they're really advertised for. Have you seen that at all? Like, there's a few people that already have them, and they're dynoing them, and they're running lower power.
Yeah, I haven't, but I'd be interested to see a couple things. I'd be interested to see, what dyno are they running on? Are they all running the same dyno, or are the dynos calibrated?
Elevation.
At the end of the day, I'm not a Mustang owner, so how much do I care? Not that much.
So from what I've seen, from what I've seen, there's like 2 or 3 guys that already like released footage on it, and they're different dynos as far as I can see. I know one of them was a dyno jet, and then they're advertised for like 490 to the crank. So they're saying like with the 15% power loss,
480 on the GT.
Yeah, 480 on the GT. It's like 480, 490. So like with the 15% power loss through the drivetrain, it's roughly right around 380, 390 to the wheels. Oh, actually, no, it's a lot higher. It's like what, 410, 420 to the wheels. So some of the cars that they're dynoing, they're like 390 to 400 to the wheels, which is really right, like with adding 15% due to the powertrain loss. It's roughly right around 450, 460 horsepower. So it's less horsepower than what Ford is actually advertising. And mind you, all of the cars that they've tested so far have been 10-speed automatics.
Yeah.
So
it could be an auto. I'd be surprised if Ford did this. I know, Nick, you're kind of newer to the Ford game, but in '99, Ford released the Mustang Cobra, and they were very optimistic in the horsepower numbers that they quoted. They ended up, I don't know if it was class action or there was a class action against them from the owners, and they ended up pulling it for the 2000 model year and warrantying everyone. I believe they had to buy back a couple cars, and they had to warranty everyone to get them to, I think it was 385 crank, because they were dynoing, I think, at 300 or 305, so for Ford to do that, I mean, it's been 20 plus years, but Ford's such a big manufacturer. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I would think better of them than to do this again.
Yeah, typically what you see though lately is manufacturers undershooting what the actual horsepower is as a kind of big middle finger to the government, the EPA lately. But so it would be kind of weird if Ford comes out, under or overstating what the horsepower is. I mean, I'll take it. It's better than Audi's Dieselgate.
I mean, in my book, as long as they don't release a car that has 25 recalls within the first couple of months they're out, then I think they're doing all right.
Listen, that hits home a little bit. Slow down.
Yeah, well, that's a real thing these days. I mean,
I know.
Freaking recalls, dude. All these cars that have so much electronic shit going on in them.
And that's the problem. It's all the electronics. It's not. It's nothing to do with drivetrains half the time. No. It's like the camera systems. Well, the government made those mandatory back in, I think, 2017. And that's it. People can't turn their heads. Their necks don't work. The mirrors are just not there anymore. So fuck us. You know, oh, we can't drive without our 360 camera view. Like, what the hell? So that's what we're dealing with that right now on the Explorers and the Aviators. So stupid.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to think, over in Italy, 2 of the rental cars I had didn't have backup cameras, and they were both 2020s.
You don't need them. They're unnecessary. No. They're nice, but you don't need them.
It's a convenience, absolutely. It's a convenience, but use them most.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so next topic is actually going to be, and Mike, I'm going to let you kind of take over because I know that you kind of saw that story, but it's, if anybody actually heard, Burning Man apparently was slightly a disaster at one point during that festival. So there was like a huge rainstorm, and there was a bunch of people that I think there was like 10,000 people or something like that, and a lot of them were pretty much just
like that.
Yeah, a lot of them were pretty much just like stranded at Burning Man because there was so much mud. So there is one we can call him a hero.
One documented vehicle that made it out of Burning Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
So so I don't. You guys might know more than I do. I don't know a whole lot about Burning Man. I do know that it's like this giant music festival. I'm assuming there's a lot of people taking a lot of different things out there. I don't really know what the whole premise of it. Something maybe. I mean, it's like it seems like it's a lot of hippies out there, which cool, man. If that's your thing, go for it. But like it's in the middle of the desert, and they do this like giant spectacle and like all these crazy hand built projects all over the place. Well, anyway, this year, much like the rest of the country, like there's unprecedented amounts of natural disaster type situations going on and weird weather patterns. So they got a lot of rain, a ton of rain in the middle of the desert, and it turned the whole place into basically just this mud factory. Inches, feet of mud everywhere, and people were getting stuck. And like, if you've seen aerial pictures of Burning Man, it's like a giant circle, and it's all people camping and like living around this like center piece for like several days or a week or whatever. Well, anyway, long story short, people couldn't get out and like there were people. I think there was like a couple documented deaths. Like people were running out of food and water because they couldn't. Their vehicles were stuck. Like they couldn't leave the property. Whatever. Well, there's a video, and I'll have Eric link it somewhere. Of a Dodge Ram TRX just absolutely decimating this like mud stretch, pulling a full camper, fully loaded camper behind it, just like balls to the wall, hitting the rev limiter, just pulling this trailer through this mud, and like everybody's watching it, and the guy videotaping it did a great job, showed the whole pole coming, as he drove by. It was awesome. Yeah. But it just begs the question, like, if you're out in the middle of the desert, like, why would you take your Honda Civic or your Hyundai Elantra or your your Prius? Like, these things happen. It's not a known regularity, but stuff happens. So like, why would you take something out in the middle of nowhere that you don't know is going to get you back? But this guy just proven a win for the gasoline powered vehicles. Love it. Well, I just love watching it. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah. But
I want to say one of the things about this festival is like green, like kind of a Greenpeace, like be kind to the environment type thing. But you have this giant pickup truck with a supercharger attached to it, just plowing through mud. It's awesome.
Yep. So more of the story: if you're going to go to Burning Man, just buy a TRX and just take it to
buy a T-Rex.
Burning Man. Yeah.
Or Raptor.
Or Raptor.
Well, that's not confirmed though. That's not confirmed. We didn't see a video of a Raptor coming out of there, so you never know.
But the Raptor is a V6 twin turbo, so it's more green friendly.
It is more green friendly. You're right.
And it's more towing friendly than the V8 versions. So
isn't there an Easter egg on the T-Rex of a T-Rex eating a Raptor though?
The
I'm
real,
sure.
but I think the Raptor R's got some additional thing on it because our Raptor R.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, it's basically
Oh, I
the
love it.
Raptor R is a Shelby GT500 engine, basically
Yeah.
just slapped.
I
into
love it.
Yeah,
That's
Nice.
so
it's a little
cool.
better what they got going.
I remember when the T-Rex came out and they showed like some of the Easter eggs like strewn about on it, and like I think it was like inside the center console or something. You open it and there's like a T-Rex eating a raptor. It's hilarious.
Wasn't it under
It
the
was
hood?
someplace like
Was it
I think-
under
I
the
think it
hood?
might be
Like
under
There was one
somewhere.
Under the hood
Yeah.
in the somewhere
Yeah, like
somewhere
on a
on it.
cowl or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
But good for them being, putting something as silly as that Easter egg is
Yeah.
in a couple
It's
thousand
funny.
cars every year just to mess with Ford and let them have their banter back and forth,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
funny. I mean, come on, if you can't laugh at it, there's something
Yeah.
wrong with you.
Exactly.
That is true. We at least kept our resale value.
Damn, no blow.
Ouch.
Dude, I have praised way too many Rams, man. And here's the thing: the Ram. What's the first thing that happened? People bought them at full price.
Here we go
Then
about the
after
appraisals
COVID.
again. Nick and his
No, hold up.
appraisals.
So it's because I get a hands-on look at the market on these things, but this is not necessarily that Ram screws the customers left and right because they sell these things, and the next thing you know, 2 months later, whoa, we're having a crazy deal. We have 12 grand off this Ram 1500. It's no different than what Tesla just did recently, where they keep dropping the price on their cars and absolutely obliterating all hopes and dreams of their owners getting out of it into something
Yeah.
else. Like, it's
Yeah.
like Ram does the same thing with their trucks. That's why they're probably the worst
Oh.
reselling trucks on the market.
By the way, have you seen? That's another thing that I just thought of this. I saw an article this week, a couple days ago, about how Tesla is running into a lot of criticism right now because most insurance companies are just writing off their cars. They won't fix them because they're too expensive to fix.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Yeah.
insurance companies are just writing them off as total losses.
Yep.
So now they're losing
And they
money all
just this past week they just dropped prices again. Just screw more people
Tesla did.
across the
Wow.
board.
That's crazy.
But
Wow.
wouldn't that be better for Tesla if the insurance company cuts you a check? Well, I would say maybe half would just replace it with another Tesla, right?
But based on the valuations, because the market on them is completely taking a shit and tanked.
Yeah,
They're not going to
but
afford another Tesla at this point.
That's why you got to get.
and that's the issue is they might do that, but then it's just going to screw everybody else that owns a Tesla because the
Yeah.
insurance rates are going to go up through the fucking roof. Because then
Yeah.
then the insurance companies are going to realize that we're just going to write all these things off. So all right, you want us to
You
insure
gotta
it? It's going to be
premium.
$400 a month,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
that's
Yeah.
Tesla's issue because back, what was it, 2020, 21? When I had their stock for a while, sold it with a small increase and should have held, taken myself still because they did multiple splits but anyway, they didn't want anybody else touching their cars, whether it be mechanics, body shops. They wanted everything to go through a Tesla garage. And to Mike's point, insurance companies are going to say, we have enough. You got a Model 3. You paid 42, 44 for it. You've had it a year and a half, 2 years, 20,000 miles. Here's 35. And, rather than getting screwed by Tesla saying, oh, well, replace this panel, we got to do these 10 things. No, I get it. I'm not trying to defend the insurance company, but I think Tesla, it was a poor choice on Tesla trying to keep everything proprietary.
Yeah.
And, the repairs. I think
So,
it hurt the consumer inadvertently.
I don't
Well,
know.
and
Maybe one of you guys maybe send this out earlier. Maybe I just saw it on social media. It was a post from this guy that bought a year ago bought a Tesla Model X Plaid for $135K. Drove it for a year. I think he said he put less than 10,000 miles on it. Goes to Tesla for a trade-in value, $62,000.
On a Plaid X.
Less than 50% of his original purchase price
Oh
from
my
the dealer
God.
who sold it to him.
That's
That
them saying we don't
sucks.
want the car. Yeah.
When
That's
they don't want the
crazy.
car, that's when you know there's a problem.
That sucks.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
Tesla
and it-
has
and
an
it's
issue.
so
They're
I don't.
shipping units. They haven't had the issues most dealers have.
right.
Well, and I don't think this is a Tesla specific issue necessarily with this whole insurance thing. I think this is a electric car thing because the batteries in these things are not cheap. And
No.
anything with batteries in it, I don't care how advanced it is and what it's made out of, it's going to need to be replaced at some point. And do you guys remember the story? It was a couple years ago about I think it was a Chevy. It wasn't a Chevy Spark. It was a Chevy Volt, maybe.
Yeah.
The guy went in and to get a replacement for a battery, and the dealership tried to charge him like $20,000, and the value of the actual car was $12,000 or something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah,
it was local. It was at I want to say it was at
It's
Victory Lane
insane.
Chevrolet, I think.
It's insane.
No.
Like, it's just here. It's cheaper to get a new car. Like, just don't even fix that. We'll just put you in a new car for
was
way
it Roger Dean?
Yes. It was
somewhere.
Roger.
It was local though.
Yeah,
it was local.
It was Roger Dean. Yeah. It was a customer out of like LaBelle or something like that or whatever, and they Roger Dean was a $20,000 RO from the service department.
It's insane. Absolutely insane.
It's nuts. Batshit crazy.
And Tesla was working on that for a while. Instead of doing charging, they wanted to make like a gas station concept, but instead of it having gas, it would pull the battery from your car and swap it with when it's fully charged.
That,
I believe
sounds
they
like
abandoned
Milwaukee
it.
just needs to get into the game.
Yeah.
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 I love the Milwaukee stuff, so.
Yeah. No, it does. I sold the stocks off a few years ago, so I stopped getting the company updates, but it sounded like they were going to abandon it just because financially it was too much of a burden. And there's too much liability because not every battery pack will be the same. They can be manufactured the same day,
right,
driven the same way in the same climate, same mileage, hours on battery. But they're going to, because of the cores, they're going to be slightly different.
It's probably in the future a more actual sustainable idea, but for right now, it's just too soon.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. For sure. All right, so getting back into the guess the track. So do you guys have any ideas or know what track that is that I sent the video of earlier?
I know which one it is. I'm not going to say it, but you guys go ahead.
So I have a guess. I don't know, but I think I know. Nick, do you care? I'm going to say it. Is it to Scuba?
So that's not what I'm going to say because I literally only know.
You're close.
Erick
you just have the wrong name.
Eric gave us a quick little hint earlier on.
Yes.
And I only know one track in the region which he mentioned, so I'm going to say it's Mount Fuji.
Nope.
No, it's neither one of those. It's not Fiji. It's not.
Suzuka.
It is Suzuka. It's
the
I
back
think,
stretch. It's just before the back stretch.
Yeah,
you go down to that loop.
So if it wasn't like I had to think about it because that turn looks like almost like Laguna Seca. Like after that first two turns, but then Laguna Seca turns right. That one kind of crested like off to the left, and that's why I was thinking Scuba because it kind of crests off to the left and then it turns right again. But,
you were right with
Nice.
the country, but to Scuba, I don't know. That goes back to my Gran Turismo days. It was a lot smaller of a track. It's almost like a big autocross track.
And it's like shaped the same way as Sebring almost. Like
kind of
like a
it's
C,
similar,
like a C. Yeah.
Yep. But no, when
Good one.
Eric was tricky, you were tricky with this one. I didn't.
Yeah, that was a
like,
tricky turn.
But then after I saw the turn, I saw the long straight. I was like, oh, this is easy because I've messed up this turn so many times virtually.
You picked a video at the transition of corners that look like probably 10 different tracks. Like if you didn't mention the general area,
the geographical,
Yeah. Good one though.
The continent.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Nice.
yeah, as I mentioned, I do want to do more of these because I feel like they're going to be kind of fun to do.
Oh yeah.
It'll definitely make you guys probably want to start watching or playing more racing games and things like that to try to figure out which track it is. But I'm definitely going to be switching it up from country to country to in regards to which track it is and things like that. So. But yeah, no, good job, Carmelo, for actually getting that guess correctly. So, all right, so that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to savor your brews and hit the road responsibly. definitely hit the road responsibly. Do not drink and drive. That is a big no-no. If not,
No.
Carmelo's going to be coming after you.
So,
All right. Again, that's all the time that we have for today. Cheers to booze and cars, and we'll see you guys next week.
like, subscribe, and BBC.
Cheers.